Awesome, we're live.
Okay. Exciting. Right, let's do this. Hello, hi, my name is Efua, Akumanyi, and I'm going to be talking to you today about Furnishful and about this platform that I created and run. But first,
There we go. Apologies.
let's talk a little about who am I? So I'm the co-founder and I'm head of technology at Furnishful. I'm also a software developer with over 15 years experience. And my background is I have a degree in computer science and artificial intelligence from Sussex Uni. I'm also one of the course writers, and I'm also a new mum. So he's 9 months old. I am very tired, and apologies if he wakes up any minute now and you hear him. So just a little bit about myself, my tech history. So I didn't start coding until university. My first lecture was called Java 101, and that was Java 1.1, came out in 1998, so you guys could do the maths and work out how old I am. And if you are aware of Java at all, you should know that we're now on version 14, so that's like many years ago. And I didn't know how to program at all when I started at uni. I didn't have I wasn't one of those cool kids who'd started young and written their first code. I was really kind of like, what is this all about when I arrived? And a funny story I can tell you about is that when I first got into my first lecture at university, they told you to go and write code at, they gave you kind of like a walkthrough of things that you had to do to start coding. And they sent us to a room, which they called the cave, because it had no windows and there were no I was used to kind of like a PC with a mouse and a graphical user interface, and there were none of that. It was just these kind of like boxes with black and yellow writing on it and keyboards all in a line. And I sat down, 18, and I literally did not know how to turn on the box. I sat there staring at this terminal screen, thinking, oh my gosh, what the hell am I doing here? I remember like tears, like holding back the tears, thinking, this is a mistake. And this young kid, well, I say young, they were the same age as me, he just sat down next to me in another terminal window, reached around the box and turned it on at the back and started tapping away on the screen. I thought, okay, just keep calm. Let's just, press down that imposter syndrome, the very first signs of my imposter syndrome, and let's just get going on it. And just decided to stick around and just keep on going at it. So on my course, there were only actually a handful of women and who completed it. We started off with about 20, and then it dropped down, and then it ended up only being a handful of us in the end. It was a hard course, and weren't many people who looked like me. So I would have loved to have like a contingent of women like you guys who looked like me coding away. I think it would have made my experience so much smoother. But I had to just keep on pressing on. I say I had to, I didn't, I could have, but I wanted to, because I knew, well, I hoped that at the end I was learning so many cool things, and it was just really, it was interesting if you took away the fear of not knowing what you're doing. So when I finished my course, I should also say that I didn't actually click the programming, and all the concepts didn't really click until I was in my first, probably my second year actually of school, and I was learning C programming, and I was given a task, again, another programming task to do. And I remember sitting there with one of my team members, a young guy, and we were trying to crack this code, and we were working away at it and trying to create this program. After, it got to like midnight, we were still going, got to 2 o'clock, we were still going. I mean, he wasn't really helping me. He was more like my cheerleader, saying, you can do it. And eventually I managed to write this piece of code, and it just all kind of clicked suddenly. And I kind of understood what programming was and the concept of it. and everything became a little bit easier. And that was just through kind of almost like persistence, really. So anyway, after that, I finished my degree, and then I became a software engineer for a medical software company, mainly because I was doing artificial intelligence and programming in Prolog, which wasn't a very well-known language, and not many people did that. So I was building decision support systems, medical support systems for GPs. And I stayed at that company for about 10 years. Then I went on to contract in many different fields, such as charity, e-commerce, insurance, and legal and tech startups. And after that, while I was contracting, I kind of got the idea for Furnish4. It was a case of being in startups and seeing so many different people come up with ideas and just run with it, and realizing that, you know, even if they can do it, then so can I, basically. So I launched Furnish4 in 2016, and it's a furniture marketplace for furniture and home decor. So we are a niche shopping aggregator, which means we bring together thousands of products from multiple retailers and allow you to shop for them all in one place. We work with brands such as John Lewis, Habitat, Made.com, and others. And just a little bit about the actual tech or the shop itself, just from the front end view. It's like a shop, so you go into it, for those of you who haven't seen the site, and we allow you to shop for, like I said, all this furniture from many different places. But we have advanced filters there as well, which will, for example, if you love boho or the industrial look, you can shop across all these different retailers and all these different products from that particular design. If you like yellow, for example, or geometric patterns, you can also check that box, and it will just show you that from John Lewis, from Habitat, from all these different retailers. We also have the ability for you to like and share items to a board, and we call them inspiration boards, and they're just simplified, really, mood boards. And they kind of look like this. So as a registered user, you can come on, create an account, and then you can create all these boards of products which you can keep private, or you can share, or you can keep it as like a wish list of products as well. You can also share these boards on social media. So why Furnish4? And why furniture? I think one of the things is spotting that there was a need in the market, or at least a gap in the market, because there are lots of online shoppers and they find it quite hard to find the right piece of furniture for their home. The process was time consuming and frustrating, so it required you visit multiple websites. You open up a Google window, you open up all these different shops, you would maybe go to Pinterest if you like that and start your shopping there and put together a board of all these cool things. But once you've done that, you found that you couldn't actually buy them because the links were either broken, outdated, or maybe they sent you to a UK website, a non-UK website, should I say. So you couldn't even purchase it potentially sometimes. So we wanted to solve those problems. And so Furniture was my idea to do that. So the business model itself is we're an affiliate model. So we monetize through affiliate. And that means that when someone comes to the site and they find something they really like, we send them through to the retailer's website to actually finish the transaction. And then we take a percentage, so a small percentage of commission of that sale. We work with multiple affiliate networks, around 30 retailers at the moment. And which means we work with a lot of third-party APIs, so maybe about 5 now. So a few stats. We're growing. We've got about 17,000 visitors a month. We have over 2,000 signups. We have over 20,000 social followers across Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook, and we generate about just over 200,000 revenue for. So the actual tech. So what I should tell you is that I actually wrote all of the code for the website myself, and I did that in about 5 to 6 months for the first iteration, first release, almost like the MVP, which really wasn't an MVP, it was quite fully functional. So I didn't stick to my own rules there, but by MVP, I mean minimum viable product. I then added and refined the functionality over time as well and added new things to it. So the main website itself, it's an MVC website, which is a model view controller website. This is kind of like an architectural framework. It's written in C#, but the front end is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, using Bootstrap, jQuery. So all these concepts you probably are familiar with now. The back end consists of a CMS, so it's a content management system, which again I wrote all myself, and that manages all the products, all the users. There's daily product price updates and changes, and hourly ones sometimes, depending on the retailer, such as Amazon. You also have the ability to manage the sections of the site and product categories. There's also a blog section, and even now an events management section that was added. I say was added as if someone else did it, I did it. We also have, so the back-end technology, there's another web application with 2 databases, and again, another 4 internal web APIs that I've written. So it's a big system. So it looks simple, which is the idea. You should see a shop interface, a straightforward shop interface. It should feel familiar. It should be easy for you to use, but in the background, there's like lots of little things going on that just keeps it up and running. So this is where to find us. Here you can see all the links, but I am realizing that that is it. However, I have a few stories to tell you as well, just about, you know, coming up with Furnish For and the journey that I took. It has been a really exciting journey, and one of the difficulties, I think, when I created Furnish For was not seeing a lot of tech entrepreneurs who looked like me, who were out there. It was a space where if you say something like name 5 tech entrepreneurs who've done amazing things, the first thing that come to your mind, the first people who came to my mind were all male and European or American, and I never felt there was a mirror out there for somebody who I could follow and think, oh yeah, that's who I want out there. So I actually felt that way when I started coding as well. Though it wasn't on my mind, I just didn't think about it. I thought about it more over time and later on. So I think it's really cool to hear and get more women into programming, and that's something I'm also very excited about doing and encouraging. Hence being part of Coding Black Females and writing the course content. Yeah, I think yeah, that's basically the end of my presentation. And if you have any burning questions, yeah, please ask me. I think there's like hours left, but yeah, I'm happy to answer as many questions as you have.
Thank you so much, Efua. Like, I always say that Efua is like my absolute inspiration. Just to tell people a little bit how I met Efua. So I set up Coding Black Females, and then it's a meetup group, and I have loads of people signing up. And I used to see Efua sign up, and I could not wait to meet Efua. I was really excited. And then I remember when she turned up and she told me a bit about her story about you know, the fact that she'd had a job in tech, and then she'd gone contracting, and then she set up her own business. And that was always what I'd wanted to do. And I'd finally met somebody who had done exactly that. So I was always really, really, really excited. I'm really, really glad that you've been able to speak to everyone this evening and tell them more about what you do. And hopefully they'll be as excited and inspired about you as I am whenever I get to tell people about you. So that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Sorry, that's me like just gushing in the corner, like, yeah. So we have somebody who's asked, she would like to know more about your time in the medical sector.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just generally. Okay, right. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So when I started when I left uni, I went straight into a job. In fact, what I'd done is I'd worked for them in the summer, a company called EmpowHerment, and they were a very small company, almost like a startup, maybe kind of more like a scale up. And they were working predominantly with decision support software, like I said. So what they had is this tool or this engine called called Arezzo, which was written in Prolog. And what it did was it allowed GPs to potentially create guidelines around interactive guidelines around NICE guidelines. NICE is like the medical publisher almost of guidelines for particular drugs and health and stuff like that. And they use these guidelines to create help files, intelligent help files, which are supposed to be an expert system that, for example, if a GP was sitting there and somebody came in and they had particular ailments, you could enter these in and it would process that information along with the NICE guidelines and give you some kind of form of output and diagnosis. So back in the day, that was what we would call artificial intelligence. And as you all know, as soon as we understand what something does, it's no longer called artificial intelligence anymore. It's called an algorithm. It's only when you don't understand what it is that it goes under the label of artificial intelligence. But yeah, so really it was an expert system. That's what I was working on, expert systems. Yeah, so yeah, that was it. And that company, again, I worked there for 10 years. And it was a really nice environment. Again, I would say this about that environment. After my course and so many women dropping out, I went into that environment, and the first person I met there was the head of tech, really, and she was a woman. And it gave me a really full sense of the tech industry, because I hadn't seen anything else. And I thought, oh yeah, wow, look, there's a woman there. She's the head, and that means I can be the head of something. Obviously, subconsciously, I thought that. That's my child crying in the background. If you hear him, please, he's with people, ignore him. He's taken care of. But yeah, so so I kind of was introduced to, you know, technology and lots of different technologies at that company, and it was kind of a flat system of hierarchy, so you got to test and work in so many different technologies, and they had quite a teaching kind of environment as well, and temperament. They weren't all a kind of like win-win business. They weren't too commercial. I think they were really quite nice and learning, and it was a really great place to work and a great place to introduce me into tech and get really comfortable with it. Yeah.
Thank you. I love what you said about AI and the fact that really it's just code. Essentially, like everything is just code. It might sound like this really, it's really hard thing to do, but learn a language and you can
get exactly.
So useful. So somebody has said, truly inspiring. Thank you, Efua. What has surprised you the most in your venture with Furnishable?
So, okay, so what has surprised me the most? I suppose it's almost like there are a few. The most would be there's a period of time where we really went on the entrepreneurial journey of let's raise some funding. Not that it needed to be raised, because the whole concept of Furnishable was that I wanted to release something that did not require funding and could grow organically by itself. But we got to a certain point where we had a few competitors who had seen maybe what we were doing and were trying to do what we were doing. And you get that immediate kind of like, oh no, we better do what everybody else is doing and get some funding and grow really big, really fast. But that journey, that kind of pitching journey, which means that you have to go to all these, you don't have to, but we kind of went to VCs, so venture capitalists, people who have a certain amount of money to invest in certain companies who they think are up and coming, and trying to reach out to angel investors, so people who are maybe individuals who were interested in getting into your business or your area, or like you as an individual. So we went and we would pitch to all these people and show them what we had and tell them about our vision. And what really surprised me was the feedback process, or the difficulty, really. We only met with like 5, and I subsequently found out you have to meet with like 100 before you actually kind of win some funding from one. So after like 5, I was just like, yeah, that's enough for me. Let's just grow organically again. That's really hard work. But you know, that was also getting confident about what we bring as an individual company to this arena as well, and not being, you know, being aware of competitors, but not being scared, because what you do isn't what they're going to do. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you. So there's a couple more questions, but I wanted to ask one around your journey. So you said that you'd been a full-time employee, then you went contracting, and then you went down the entrepreneurial path.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that it's sort of vital to have that experience first in a company to see how companies run, and then to go contracting so you see a few different things? Like, do you sort of recommend starting off in that way? Is that a path that you think was actually really beneficial to the journey that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think it personally, for me, it was very beneficial, because the only thing I would say is I don't think I took a long time in a company. I was very comfortable for many years, and I got to a certain point where I felt I can't stay here forever. I could, but I didn't really want to, because I didn't want just one thing on my CV at that point. So I became a contractor because I wanted to have a breadth of experience and, you know, start using all those different kind of technologies, because when you're in one place, you tend to probably use a tech that builds their particular product, unless you're in a consultancy where you might be using loads of different products or technologies. And it was because I became a contractor and I saw all those different areas and all those different companies and how they were run and what they were doing, that I kind of got the confidence to say, you know, this is, you know, this guy's no really different from me. He hasn't really had that much of a different journey. And look, he's just thrown himself into it, so I can do it. So it did help. But on the flip side of that, I can see how, yeah, it's important to have a basis and a grounding, definitely. But probably I would say do that, get that grounding, go to as many places, and don't, if your idea is to become or create your own thing, then don't get too comfortable.
I think that's definitely easier said than done.
Yeah.
Yep. You're not alone in being comfortable in places and staying for way too long. Definitely. Yep. So somebody said that they absolutely love the entrepreneurial side of your journey. Do you find that there are a growing number of Black women going down that route?
Yes, I think in the UK it really feels that way, and I think in the US it's been that way for a number of years actually. And some of the inspiration that I've had technology-wise, I've had to really search out and find in the US. So there was somebody who worked in, there's a woman, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but her journey was, again, she created a cool piece of tech that helped using AI to search to find bits. So for example, if you had a missing screws or whatever, or missing something small, a bit that you needed to figure out or get more of, you could take a picture of it, and her tech would find all these places for you to buy it from. And in fact, and she was then purchased by, she was acquired by Amazon for millions, and successfully retired. And I thought, or went on to do other things after that. And that to me, it's inspiration, you know, not necessarily that you have to go and sell your business, but the idea that somebody who looks like me can create something massively successful in tech, and then, you know, get a huge company like Amazon to recognize that and acquire you. I don't know if that answered the question. I've in fact forgotten the question that you asked me. I went off on a tangent.
The question, no, you kind of said it. So do you think that there are a growing number of Black women going down that path of being entrepreneurial? So you have said that.
Okay.
What do you think that is though? Like, why do you think there is growth in that area? Like, why do you think a lot of Black women are doing that?
I think I personally think that one of the other things that for me, was the ability to manage my own outcomes almost. So that kind of freedom that you want, that you might get when you start your own company. So if you're in a company and you feel like you're reaching a certain point and you're maybe struggling to get past that point potentially, then many people maybe are looking. For me, because I went to contracting, that was my way out of that. And I found that, you know, loads of people who I felt like I could also, which gave me the confidence to do it myself. But for other people, it could be that they are reaching certain positions and they want to create their own destiny maybe as well, and also service a community. So if there's a lot of tech out there that isn't built by people who look like us, it doesn't appeal to us, it doesn't actually serve us, then the opportunity to be able to create something that does, that's pretty inspirational.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially with there's been a lot of hair applications. Neo Enterprise, I guess, is a perfect example of that. You know, people creating tech around our hair that nobody else understands but us.
Yeah.
And, you know, Black women are seeing that this is a market that we can tap into. So I think it's so key and so important to look at what we need as a community and who we are, and say, how can we support that ourselves?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
I guess I have a question again around furniture. So I guess with that sort of tapping into markets that we haven't seen. I think you touched on it a bit when you were talking, but
Mhm.
what was it that made you think, okay, furniture, that's what I want to go into? I really, really love furniture. Like, what was it? What pulled you in that direction?
Yeah, okay, so it didn't happen immediately. And I think when I first created, I used my MVP for Furniture wasn't actually around furniture. It was around, it was using WordPress, and it was around shredders, actually. And the idea behind that is I just needed a product that had loads of attributes that people could maybe not understand straight away, that I could create a cool aggregate site for, which has a very small subset of products before I went and did something big. And after we served that, we looked around, and it was a case of there was lots of aggregators for fashion out there. So there are a ton of them, and they were hugely successful. And they're companies that you might not even know have been built, have millions of users, and then have been acquired. And I just didn't see furniture being served as well. And so some of these clothing aggregators did have a furniture section, but it was really small and kind of clunky and broken. And so I thought, why not? I mean, it's just, furniture is a really pretty thing to look at as well. It's really beautiful. I wouldn't get bored of looking at it every day. And it was underserved, I felt. So yeah, that's kind of what led us to think about it. So it's a case of, it was a process of elimination and thinking about it as well, to settle on furniture.
So it sounds a lot as well like you were looking for an idea. You were at that point that you were like, I need to do something.
That's exactly
and you were looking for gaps as well.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few ideas, and there still are, as always. You know, there's tons. I'm like, I could do this, 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 and this. And I just decided that, because furniture felt like such a nice niche market to be able to get my teeth into and understand.
Absolutely. So I guess that means that anybody who's got any ideas that you're sitting on, think about how you could elaborate them. There's Efua here. I don't know which direction you are on other people's screen, but in mine you're this way. So listen to Efua, because she's got some awesome advice. And also, if you've got an idea, tap into it, see what you can do with it, see how you can develop it as well. So someone's asked, do you have any tips for career changes with no computer science or coding background? And how would you break into the industry after self-learning or self-teaching?
Okay, so self-learning, self-teaching, fantastic. So many people are doing that. So that is, I think, the way in. I probably, how would I break into it? For me, I think community. Use your network and use your community. So right now, I would be, if I was learning how to code, I would also be going to meetups or virtual meetups, things that are being put on by companies, going to those, getting to know people, because I think cold calling can be tough sometimes, and it can be very successful to kind of make an application blindly and then get accepted. But getting to know people, people getting to know you, that's part of the process. Yeah, I think that's probably how I would try and approach it if I was doing that, because that's one of the things that I think I could have done earlier on as well, network from day one. So having a great network like this is how you find out about people. Oh, I've got a company, or I know this company, oh, people are looking to hire my company. So, you know, that's how I would do it. Yeah.
I've got a question. Sorry, Efua. Thank you so much. You've been inspiring, and think just by building the whole of Furniture, I know how stressful it is. Building a platform, it's not easy. So you've done an amazing job there. My question is, how do you balance the entrepreneurial side and the coding side? Because obviously we know, like with tech, you might just want to like go all in and you want to build the best and most wonderful thing ever, but you have to think about cost. How do you manage the cost and also the excitement and the passion of coding as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's been helpful that I know I'm not the sole person. I do have a co-founder. So it's something that you can bounce ideas off of. So if I'm like there and I'm like, oh my God, we should do this. This is amazing. He'll say, how long do you think that's going to take? And I'll be like, 5 minutes, and it'll cost this. And he'll be like, okay, let's park that. and consider maybe doing this first. So it's good to have somebody there to bounce these things off, especially if you're writing it all yourself, because you'll just, obviously I would spend hours just programming. Also on top of that, you can't do that, or you cannot program and all of the programming all the time and all of the management. And so you have to have several hats on, which means you have to self-regulate as well. You have to be able to say, okay, this functionality has to wait until I have the time or whatever. That's if you're going to keep it as more like a, you know, side hustle, or if this is your full-time tech job and I'm the sole programmer of it, I would probably hire as well. That's another thing. Outsource as much as you can. That's probably a good idea. So outsource. I'm looking here, by the way, because everyone's here and I'm realizing my camera's here. But so yeah, outsource is a good one. So it's about self-management and self-regulation, and making sure that you're building tech that people actually want. So there's lots of nice to haves, but you've got to hold back and maybe do your research before you plow ahead and spend lots of money and lots of time on something that might not be you wanted. That's probably what I would say. Yeah, so management is all about users in a way and what they want.
I think that quite nicely leads on to, so you've mentioned working with somebody else and how beneficial that's been, but somebody's asked, who is we? Like, who are you working alongside?
So my partner as well. So yes, I don't only work with him, I live with him. And yeah, there's a whole nother talk I can give on that. I'm managing that. But yeah, so he's yeah, he's my partner of 17 years. We've been together for many years. And this is why I can do probably other things, because now the coding side of Furnish For is kind of over, or at least it's never over. You're always programming, but at least it self-manages itself without having to have me daily constantly like fix things or whatever. It runs. He's the person who takes care of mainly all of the admin and the marketing of it. I just input, so I'm just like the CEO.
So on that, so I remember this question being asked to Oyen and Laolu during their Beyond Hair Summit.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good friends, right? How do you manage that relationship? So how do you know when you're talking about business and then also when you're just talking about your relationship or whatever? Like, how do you make that split and make sure that when it's business, it's just business, and you don't like, I don't know, you don't make bad business decisions because of the fact that you're also in a relationship? Like, how do you manage that?
Right. Okay, so there are a few tips and tricks. I have to say, we've been together for 17 years, so we know how to talk to each other because of that. But you know, there was a period of time where, you know, if I wanted to pull the business in one way and he wants to pull in another way, we'd have to have a third party who maybe wasn't invested in the business as a willing third party, who wasn't a relation, because that was one of our stipulations. Don't ask your nan, and I can ask my sister. So it has to be somebody else who could come in and, as a, you know, mutual third party, could give us like, well, what do you think about that? What do you think? Somebody who we respected. So that was really helpful. If you could find somebody who you could bounce ideas off, and you have to then go with that. That was probably it. So a mediator in a way. And then also there's some case of, you know, you have to be able to say, I don't agree, but let's test it out and let's see how it goes. And then don't blame them if it doesn't go well. That's another one.
So when you're testing things out, do you time box it, or do you say, okay, we're going to test this out, but we're only going to test it for 5 weeks, and if it doesn't work, then we haven't. Or
5 weeks, or we spend X amount of money on it. So, you know, we would time box it out. It's really more about time and then money, because, you know, a lot of the stuff is because, you know, when you're programming, that's going to cost you, or if you're going to advertise, it's going to cost you. So yeah, it would be a lot of a case of, okay, so let's trial it for this period, or let's put that amount of money into it and see how it goes, and then we use the feedback to, you know, decide.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to those who want to be entrepreneurial or consultants, but who have young children, basically you? Like, what advice would you give to people like that?
What advice would I give to them? It's 9 months. I can't believe you're asking me that. I wish you could ask me that when when they were 2 or 3. I would say for me, planning. That's what I think for me personally, if I'm going to be absolutely honest with you, I think that time management is one of the hardest things when you've got a kid, because I didn't know how I was going to feel. It's my first child. I didn't realize that, I was going to stare in his face and essentially fall in love with him. And then other things were going to not be less important to me. But because of that, I have had to plan my life so much more tightly. So my calendar is my life, really, so that I feel like I'm spending time with my child, and that I am also doing the things that would keep me sane and inspire me and make me feel like I'm growing and contributing. So it's a case of, if you have kids, I think it can be done. It's just about planning it adequately. And also, what I probably need to get a little bit better at is saying, okay, not now. Maybe let's not just say yes to everything. So that's probably it. That's my advice.
So I don't know that you actually mentioned the fact that you also work full time at the moment, right?
I didn't know.
So, you work full time.
Yes.
You have a business.
I do.
And you have a brand new child. It has to be more than just planning. Like, the planning bit must be, that sounds great. I think that even without the child, your son, sorry, I shouldn't just say the child, even without your son who you love, that would be difficult, how,
yeah.
Can you give any tips on time management?
Yeah, I think it's a case of, the thing is, this wouldn't work without my partner. He has to be all my family. There's also support, right? You have to have a decent amount of support, because if I'm here, then someone's going to be looking after him. So it's not just time management, it's also having people who in your life are willing to help you out, who you trust. It takes a community, right, to raise a kid. And so I have a good community of people who, my sister's downstairs at the moment, and my partner's also there. So they're all there helping and supporting me and encouraging me. And yeah, that's it's not just about planning. It's also about having that other community to help. Yeah.
Okay. So someone's said they have 4 children. Oh, this isn't a question.
Okay.
I think this is a statement.
Okay.
But I think it's great. I have 4 children. The youngest is 5 months, and he is forever coding with me on my lap during boot camp classes. So I totally relate.
Oh, that's amazing. That's lovely.
It is amazing.
It's so cool.
And you're my namesake, Charlene, and I've seen this and I think it's fantastic. He is going to be so excited about coding.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, right.
So going forward, what are some of the goals you have for Furnishful over the next few years? And what new tech are you eyeing to help achieve them?
Yeah, so I think I've been talking about this, I have to say, for about a year now or more. But it was like a visual, we're really keen on getting some functionality up, like visual search, to be able to, take a picture of a piece of furniture and then find what you want. So there are lots of tools out there. I mean, I've planned this and I know how to code it. It's just, again, deciding whether that's how important that functionality is over other functionality that I think might also help foster a community. So that's the other thing about building a community and making it more sticky. So that's where we're at the moment with Furnishful. Like I said, it's growing, but speeding that growth process up and getting that community of people who can talk to each other and love what we're doing. So that's our future.
Great, thank you. Just going back to time management, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of the women on the course, not a lot of the women, like some of the women on the course, people are juggling a lot. People are juggling jobs, learning, children, and everything, and also just learning something brand new, which is exciting but also hard. Do you have any more tips or tools that people could use for time management to help people to get the most out of it and to not struggle as much as they could do with everything that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've got a full-time job and as well, and there's a lot of new tech for me there as well. And I think it's a case of, there is a certain, I'm in a different position in that I have been programming for many years. So although I know I don't know the tech now, it's a case of don't beat yourself up. It will come. It's about practice, and you will get there if you are struggling. If you're struggling with time, then know that even spending a half an hour grab here and half an hour grab there to practice is beneficial. It's all beneficial. It's all adding. It's all adding to you, that things slowly clicking in place for you. So when it comes to time management tools, I have to say my calendar is my life. I have about 6 different calendars, and I've got things on there that are simple as cook dinner now, or, you know, it's literally down to that level. And if it's not in my calendar, then I'm probably not going to do it, because I cannot retain anything after. I shouldn't say that. I can retain stuff, but I choose not to, you know, there's things that I'm like, I'm not going to bother remembering that anymore. Just write it down. Yeah. So yeah, tools, like there are many of them out there. So if you're not with Google Calendar, if you've got Trello boards, you've got things that you can help manage your life and your time effectively. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think it's okay to say that you don't retain anything. Nothing is retained in my mind anymore. I'm sure Oyen will know. She'll say, Shani, can you do this? If it's not written down in a place, it doesn't get done.
I need an alarm to say, do this, do this. Yeah. Absolutely.
Google Calendar is actually great because you can put reminders in it as well. So, which isn't necessarily an event, but it's a reminder, just do this by
It's really helpful. Also, the fact that I can join all of them. So, you know, I can add my work to my personal. I've got one for Noah Bear. No, sorry, my son's called Noah and I've got Noah Bear, sorry. And so I've got one for him. And so it's all in there, you know, so.
Fantastic. That's such a good idea. Google Calendar, fantastic. Love it. So with Furnishable, did you have to approach the retailers of the product? Did you have to approach the retailers of the products that are sourced from the site?
So no, so what we, because we're an affiliate, what we actually do, we're affiliate, we consider ourselves, we're monetized through affiliate relationships. So we are what you would call a publisher. So there are a number of affiliate marketplaces out there, such as Affiliate Network, Commission Junction, Amazon have their own affiliate website. So you'd approach them. Amazon are huge, so they're their own affiliate and retailer, but under some of these other networks that I was talking about, so Affiliate Network, for example, you will have a number of different retailers. So you just have to, you just approach the actual marketplace, the affiliate marketplace. And then through that marketplace, you would say, I would like to be on your John Lewis program, or I'd like to be on, so you're approaching them, but not directly. Now, they might ignore you. One of the things that I would say is, if you're trying to get into this kind of market in this space, is you have to have a good offering. And so when I first produced the site, and then we asked and requested a lot of retailers, they all, I don't think anybody said no, one person said no, but then they came back to us subsequently. And now we have kind of a list of retailers who want to join the website, in fact, and advertise their products on us. So yeah, we didn't have to approach them. But what I would say, I'd caution is that you have to build a relationship with the retailer afterwards, because it's not just about your numbers. It's then you have to understand who's managing that program and who's managing that budget, and you have to get to know them maybe and have a relationship with them, so that, you know, you can keep up communication and they come to you first with cool things.
Okay, so I feel like, yeah, this affiliate thing sounds really interesting. I don't think I understand it yet, but I need to research. It sounds, so you sign up to an affiliate, so it's like the affiliate's got the relationship. Mm-hmm. And then you communicate with the affiliate, and then they give you the access to the products and everything.
They give you the access to their products, or sometimes, you know, the actual retailer will give you access in another format, but they manage the relationship by their technology, even will manage and track the relationship and what's getting sold on your site. because if you would have to write that tech yourself, that bit of management tech to track all those numbers, and then you probably have to chase people to pay you. So having that, it can be beneficial to have that network in between to kind of say, okay, this is, and they've got all the technology and that's what they specialize in. But you know, you could try and approach directly if you wanted to foster a relationship. It depends. Some small retailers won't be part of an affiliate, so you probably have to approach them directly. It's really, for us, it was like the big players that we wanted to get on board to help with our branding. You know, that's how we approach them. Once you have that relationship, there's also the opportunity to move away from the affiliate network as well. Though I wouldn't necessarily advocate that. I don't want to anger our affiliate network.
Stay with them, stay with the affiliate network. So I guess there could be an interesting market there, though, to set up. I don't know enough about affiliate networks, but you could set up an affiliate network for Black-owned furniture companies, say.
That would be a good thing to do, I would say. Yeah. So
absolutely. Once you learn your skills,
you can start building tracking tech that will allow people to just put something on their code, put something on their site, and essentially track purchases.
Oh, so do you know much about what sort of technology you would need to be able to do that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I could figure it out because I considered writing my own part of it, and that was the thing. When you want to move away from that, yeah, I mean, you just need, let's think about it. I'm going to think about it right now.
Solutionizing.
Solution. Yeah, I mean, if you think about what you would need, is you just need an API exposed that would allow people to maybe put a snippet of code on their site, and maybe if you are thinking about, there's two aspects to it, right? There's part of the site that would have to be for publishers, so people who want to advertise products, and there's part of the site that needs to be for retailers, so people who have products to advertise. So the retailer would need to be able to track all of the information, all their products, and all of the people who are selling their products, and they would have to have one place to be able to store a list of their products, so product feeds. And then on the other side of the market, you'd want to encourage publishers or people with blogs or cool concepts like Furnishful or other things, or websites that have traffic, to advertise those products and sign up to those affiliates. And you'd need tracking codes of some kind to be able to say, okay, you could probably even use, maybe you could use Google Analytics and the tracking functionality they have there as a minimum viable product, as opposed to have to build a whole lot of tech. Then it would tell you exactly who's clicked on what and why and where and what's been purchased. Yeah, does that make sense? It's like a two-sided marketplace that you'd have to create almost.
Ah, interesting. So if, for example, somebody had just been learning JavaScript, then that could be something that they could look into building. Yeah.
JavaScript, Node, and a database. You could do it. Yeah.
So something that once people have got to the end of maybe all of the material that they're going to be learning, and just before the projects come up, that could be a project idea.
Yes, it could be. It absolutely could be.
Fantastic. And they could talk to Efua, perhaps.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool idea. Do it. I'll sign up.
If anyone needs ideas, we just gave you one. No, that's absolutely fantastic. So a while back, you did a talk at Coding Black Females. When was it? Back in, I think it was last year March. I'm going to go with last year March.
Okay.
You did a talk about at Coding Black Females about using AI in Furnishful to do, like, not vision boards.
Search.
Yeah, there we go. Visual search.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on some of that? Is that something that, could you tell people about the AI side of what you're doing there?
Well, yeah, I mean, with the AI, what's nice about kind of AI now, I would say, is I think there is a lot of tech out there, and there are a lot of platforms such as, Google have a technology stack that will expose APIs that could help you use some of their search functionality, their visual search functionality, and you can plug that into your website to have a visual search tool, basically. And most of the providers out there, most of the cloud providers out there, such as Microsoft and Amazon, also have their own kind of offering. And it's not just visual search, but there's loads of other AI tools such as speech recognition, some cool bots and chat bots and things like that that you could use as a first step if you don't have the background of building your own actual algorithms or learning systems, I would say, I'll call them. So one of the platforms that I use would be Microsoft, and they have a whole analytics. They call it, what do they call it? I've forgotten what they've called it, but they, like I said, they have like a text-to-speech AI tools. They have visual search AI tools, and they have chat AI tools, and it's just an APIs. They're just APIs that are exposed. So once you learn about APIs and application programming interfaces, you will know how to use these kind of technologies or consume these technologies. And they try and make it as straightforward as possible and somewhat obfuscate the kind of in-between tech that means you'd have to have knowledge of math and algorithms to really understand. Now, that's not to say that you can't go on and do that. You should be, you can obviously do that yourselves if you want to. And there's actually a lot of information out there to allow you to do it, especially from Google. I have to say, they're trying to expose more and more of this to the users to allow them to create their own systems of their own AI systems, essentially. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess so, because Google just want to collect as much data as possible.
They do. So they're exposing as much as possible just to get that from you.
So on that, so if you wanted to talk to one of those APIs, the AI type ones, the learning ones, the text to speech, what languages might you need to know to do that?
So let's see. You don't need, I would say JavaScript. That's probably all you would need, just because of the fact that JavaScript can take you now, because of Node, to the back end as well. So that will give you the full range, and also to databases because of JSON kind of language. So if you learn JavaScript, you would have front-end tech, you have the middle tier tech, and you have the back-end tech, including databases. So that's really beneficial, one language across all of these platforms, as opposed to having to know C# and Perl or whatever, or PHP for a background, and then JavaScript. It's really helpful, and that's all you would need to know to consume an API directly, I would say. Yeah.
So if, for example, I'm just trying to suggest ideas to people if you hadn't figured it out. So if, for example, somebody had been learning JavaScript and they wanted to create a program that could listen to what people were saying and then output it for maybe their grandmother who was hard of hearing or something like that, they could probably do that with the APIs that already exist.
Absolutely. They really could. Yeah. And in fact, there is it's what Amazon are trying to encourage you to build things for Alexa. So they're kind of Alexa skills APIs that are out there at the moment that you could build tools for. And I think, I'm not sure, I can't be sure, but if it's changed, but if they are successful, they somehow will also make you money. I haven't looked into it in too much detail, but it's possible that you could maybe use those straight away and start creating Alexa skills, because they're trying to encourage people to do that. They're trying to get people to build as many Alexa skills so that everyone can have Alexas in their house, listening to every word that you say.
I know my little friend in the background is listening to everything I'm saying.
The only reason I can say the name so confidently is because they're downstairs.
Oh, I was going to say.
Because you're thinking, because now I'm saying, as soon as I say it, all of you who've got Alexas at home, they're all kind of going, yeah.
I do not understand what you're saying. No, that's really useful. So it seems as though JavaScript is probably a really key language that can really support a lot of things that people might want to do.
I think so. I think it is, yeah. It is. It's a very strong language to know. It's a very good one to know.
Excellent. It's fantastic. And I guess this kind of is useful for the things that people might want to be building. Can you explain a bit more about minimum viable product in relation to coding? What does that really mean?
Yeah, okay, so in relation to coding, minimum viable products, I think for me, when it comes to minimum viable products, you really should be thinking about your users and the and the smallest amount of functionality that you can produce that is complete. So I'm not talking about, you know, something that looks really shoddy, but complete, that will serve your purpose. And your purpose is, when it comes to building, in terms of building your own tech product to serve a community, what is the minimum way you can capture your user or engage them to get decent feedback to help iterate and improve that product for them. So for example, if you are if you're trying to find out whether your new health learn tech software solution to help teach people something online is going to be useful, rather than going and building a whole end product and spending months and months, you know, coding it down to the T, you know, and having a complete solution. Maybe you go for something very, very simple, such as, this is what we're going to build. Here it is. Here are, even goes as far as to say, here are the different tiers of the product, and here's the functionality for it. And that's so a simple website, for example, in JavaScript and HTML, that captures that information and captures the user information. And then, you know, if you explain your product well enough, or you give them enough of a journey without actually building the product, the names that are signed up to it are people who are, they're your first set of users. That's your first kind of community who are excited about your product enough to give you their details to say, you know, I want that product, or I want that platform. So in terms of MVPs, it's just about putting something out there that explains what you're doing or captures a minimum amount of information from your users who are excited about that product and what you're offering, want to hear about more. And that doesn't mean you have to have, you know, really in-depth, you know, knowledge of all technologies. A website built in JavaScript or with HTML, CSS front end, just to capture that information is enough to, you know, give you enough feedback to kind of iterate next versions. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's essentially the minimum that you need to serve the user with what they want, essentially.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that you can then build on
and then help you get that kind of product market fit. So help you, and when I'm saying product market fit, I mean help you get to the point where your product, people are talking about it. So, you know, you've got product market fit with a product after you've iterated a few times, when someone's saying, oh my God, this is amazing, you know, sign up to CBF. It's so cool. You meet loads of people, they're amazing. And they look just like you, and they're coders. Or, you know, buy your products from Nio, they're fantastic. They do know everything about hair, they're great. You know, that kind of like virality. That's product market fit.
Thank you so much. If I've actually got another question for you as well.
Yeah.
Also, just to add as well to the MVP piece, it's a bit like, you know, you've got a vision to build, you know, a flying car, but you've got to start from a scooter, and that's what MVP does, because a scooter still takes you from one place to another, but you're not necessarily at your flying car yet, you know, but you're actually doing the minimum thing that this flying car is meant to do. I've got a question for you in terms of how you balance all of the pressures with coding, being a mom. I know you touched on it earlier on, and as well as the entrepreneurial side of things as well. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is what's the ideal product market fit for furnishful.com? And is that your ideal entrepreneurial life, or do you have any other ideas that you want to kind of look into as well?
Yeah, okay, so the first question, I don't retain anything.
Okay, I repeat my first question. I'm sorry, that's too many questions. First question is, how do you balance all of your life?
Yeah. Okay, so when it comes to furniture, for example, my partner really looks at that. And also it's not just us now, we actually have somebody who manages a lot of it for us. She came on board, she's fantastic, never leave us, and she just takes care of a lot of stuff that we've kind of delegated to her now. And she's, yeah, like I said, she's she's brilliant, and we've had her on board for quite a number, for about a year now, I think. So that's kind of taken care of, and that between my partner and her furniture was really taken care of. It allows me to move away and do other things, basically. In terms of work, I'm full-time. I'm managing that. It hasn't been for very long. It's just started in July, so you know, it's early days still for me. But yeah, I think it's all working. It's all managing. Other ideas that I have are to do with, I think, going on this kind of journey and meeting all these different entrepreneurs, and a lot of groups I'm a member of, a lot of female entrepreneurial groups that I'm a member of. There are a lot of women who are trying to get their tech built who aren't technical, and they have had bad experiences. This is what I found. A lot of them came to me and talked about how one person was talking about how she had a whole platform built, and then the developer turned around and said he owned it. And she basically couldn't build anything else because it was his, and she would have to pay him for it. It was awful, and I that kind of thing made my blood boil, basically. And so I'm very much about empowering women who aren't necessarily or don't consider themselves technical, empowering them on their tech to get them confident enough to understand. So it's a bit like when you go to a mechanic and he's got to fix your car and he starts talking about all sorts of stuff that you don't understand, and you know, he could say anything. Just give them enough information so that they know and get concepts and they can speak confidently about it, or even know that if they need that tech. That's another passion of mine, as well as CVF, working on that, and all of the cool stuff that I'm doing, the community, the meetups. There's so many things going on. I'm very passionate about that too. So yeah, how am I managing it? I mean, so far I'm still here.
You're doing amazing.
There's no smoke from my ears, is there?
You're doing amazing. I've got one more question for you. So thank you for that. That's really, really good. I think one of the things as well, because obviously I'm an entrepreneur myself, so that IP piece, for a lot of us, we don't actually understand how powerful that is, and making sure that we're making sure that our IPs, what I mean by IP, by the way, is intellectual property, making sure that you don't sell your intellectual, you don't, you know, have ignorance of what that is, or else you might build this amazing thing, and then the coder says it's theirs. But I'm sure it won't be the case for the people here, because all of us are coders. So
yes, exactly.
You guys are building your own tech. My question is, we were talking a lot earlier about Alexa and Google and things like that. So as a woman in tech, and you know, someone who's building amazing technology and software and platforms, I don't know if anyone's seen the social media chain. Is this Netflix documentary about engineers were talking about, you know, building products that were incredibly addictive and wasn't as ethical. So how as a woman in tech, a Black woman in tech, how do you think we can kind of mitigate that and make sure we're building stuff that people need, but it's not being stripped of people's rights, I guess. Oh.
Right. Okay. So before I even created Furniture, this is a really good question. Before I even created Furniture, I read a book called Hooked, and it's a great. Amazing. I think I've got it cut out, but okay. Yeah, I read a book called Hooked, and it was really about how to. It wasn't encouraging you, but explaining how those products that are out there are addictive, and how they kind of hook you in with they gamify a lot of stuff to get you hooked in, and how a lot of this tech and the algorithms that are built underneath it encourage this kind of negative cycle, because we as human beings respond quicker to negative feedback over positive feedback. We tend to get served that a lot more, and so they can send people down into a kind of a spiral, or they can make people addicted to kind of instant gratification. And I read that book and I remember thinking, this is a really great book, but you can do really bad things with it. And when I went to build Furniture, I actually actively had in mind, don't do that. Because there's so many things I could build in that could foster that kind of addictive feel to it. So I'm really careful about trying not to. But on the flip side, obviously, as an entrepreneur, you also want people who are generally interested to get served something that's useful and helpful. So it's always just, it's about being conscious of it and you know, just I don't want to say do no evil, because that's like that was Google's mission statement, which I don't know how if they stick to that so much, so I don't want to say that, but it's essentially about that. It's about, the way I see it, it's thinking about how does it serve but not become addictive. So any tech that I have, I've always had in mind to I'm going to build in things that are going to say, you've been on this for like several hours, get off, or, you know, try and do something else, or that kind of mentality. That's always what I've been thinking long term. Yeah, just be kind. do unto others as you wish they do unto you.
That's so important. I think that a lot of companies essentially just think about money, and not saying that you can't think about money and be ethical, but I think
Charlene, I think your internet is...
Question around... Can you hear me now? Am I stable?
Yeah, you went a bit robot for a while, but no. Oh,
okay. How about now? Can you hear me okay?
yes.
Yeah, you're back now. Yes.
Okay, good. I thought it was you that had both frozen, so shows how much I know. Saying was people tend to choose money over us, unfortunately, which just leads us into a really bad situation. So Efua, you've had a question in the IP.
Oh, you're breaking up again.
Charlene, you're breaking up. I can take the question for you if you want to type it.
It's the question in the chat.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so thank you. So we've got another question for you, Efua. So following on from the situation around IP that we mentioned, Maria was wondering if you could tell us how to avoid a situation where somebody who had insisted in building a tech product claiming ownership.
Okay, so there are a few ways to do that. Some of them a little bit technical. So if you want to know, I would say be the owner of of repositories of accounts. Be the master owner of them. At least understand that much of it so that you can do that, or get somebody who can assign lesser roles to your developers, such that they don't have the power to cut the connection from you. So that's GitHub, that's AWS, that's all the cloud performers out there. They have the ability for you to have a root or a master and then give lower permissions to developers even. So that's one thing, that's actual physical ownership. Other than that, I would also say, think about contracts. In the UK, at least, if you can find a simple enough contract to say, you know, this is what you're going to do for me, this is what you're going to deliver, this is what you own, and get them to stipulate that and sign it, then that's something you can also encourage. Another thing that you might want to consider technically is when somebody's putting a proposal forward to you, maybe get somebody third party if you're not confident to look over it, who is very technical, so that you can see what they're going to produce for you and how much of the software that they're going to produce is yours. Because you've got to be careful. I know that once when I was working at a company, we were working with I was actually managing a third party solutions provider in India, and they produced lots of tech for us, but what they kept on doing was sneaking in proprietary software which was locked down and they owned. And it was like, oh, we built you this cool calendar tool or whatever, but it wasn't necessary and it was theirs, and that would mean we'd forever have to keep on going back to them to kind of get them to fix it if there was a bug. So that's a very clever way of tying you in forever and ever. So there are little things, that gotchas, that if you just have a little bit of knowledge about, or somebody who does, can help you make sure that you own the code, it's yours, there aren't any kind of tricks in there, and that the accounts are yours. So yeah, those are a few things, and the contracts as well.
Also, what I would kind of add to that as well in terms of like ownership of code. It's also about um, working with people who you trust as well. I mean, sometimes it's quite hard to develop that trust if you've not worked with them before, but maybe starting off with little projects and seeing how they respond to your IP decisions, or what you want, first of all. And also number two, it's making sure that you, just as Efua said, you own the repositories and you own all of the ground things that link to it. But at the same time, looking at ways that you can make disruptive stuff. So obviously what we're here for is, we're not just here to make the next tool, we're here to make the next disruptive tool that adds more value to people. So looking at ways that you can do that, but at the same time, having IP on it. So trademarking some, I'm not sure if you can trademark code, please correct me if I'm wrong, but trademarking it or patenting it as much as possible, if possible. I don't know. So yeah, those little things as well.
I think you can license code, can't you? Which you could do, and then you could also then decide who owns the ideas behind it. But you can't trademark the actual code or anything like that. But you can do that you can trademark the name and stuff like that, and you can patent the idea.
You can patent the idea, but code itself is unpatentable.
Yeah.
It's funny because actually the human genome is patentable, so someone actually owns the patents on on all of our genome. It's crazy, right? But you can't patent code. I worked for an IP office for 3 years, and that was one of the first questions I asked.
Wow, that's really interesting. That.
Someone owns us, but not the applications that we use. Ridiculous. I'm sure there was a reason for it at some point. Well, ownership. Right. So going back to Furnishable, you've sort of said that somebody else is managing that completely. So you don't really do you not have to spend that much time on it now?
It's really a case of maybe I get updates on obviously what's going on, and maybe a decision here and there. And this project, Furnishable, has always been created by me. I've always worked as a contractor and built Furnishable. There's only one particular period of time where I've taken big chunks of time out, not working at all, and working full time on Furnishable. But it was from the start. When I first created it, I was actually working contracting as well. So and that meant that when I envisioned it and when I built it so that it was robust and did not require daily input from me, because I just knew it would be unmanageable. 40 retailers and 40,000 products. I just wasn't going to, 20,000 products. I can't manage those every day on a daily basis. Price updates. It's all got to run smoothly, and it's all got to inform people who can take care of it through the CMS if it goes wrong, which is what's been developed. So there's a whole, it's all proprietary. So I've written it all myself, which means the whole toolkit sits there and it runs, and I understand everything that's going on in it, and I've created it so that someone else can do that. Someone else can manage it in the back end.
It's a very good idea, because otherwise what happens is you end up spending all of your time on something and
Exactly.
you run out.
Yeah.
So yeah, such a good idea. I guess thinking about things in that way can lead you to a really sustainable product in the end, wouldn't it?
Exactly that. And there was an iteration of that, especially the automated background product updates and pricing and the way that products are added. It had to be really thought about. And as a developer, if you do those kind of things manually a few times, you get so sick of it that you're going to program something that's going to automate it, basically.
Yeah. And I guess we need to remember that all automation is really, it's all just code. Yeah. So that first task is code. The other task is just code again, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Yeah. So important to think in that way. So to move away from Furnishable a little bit, at the beginning of the session, you said that you wrote some of the course.
I did, yes.
Yeah. So everybody is just about to move, they've just finished JavaScript and they're about to move into React and React Native. Do you have any tips and tricks for people who have just finished JavaScript and they're looking forward to that part of the course? What, any suggestions?
Yes. If you're about to make a bit of a leap, I would say, from JavaScript to React Native, because React is JavaScript, but someone's concept and envisioning around how you would use it to create front-end tools and front-end code. I would say watch a video if you can as well, a starter video, a helpful one. There are a few out there. Don't spend hours on it, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to get taught it, but don't feel comfortable looking at other sources as well. I would say, to help add to your journey of learning, and you would then use, you know, the classes and the mentors and instructors to help you ask those questions. So I would say that. I think it's a nice introduction. It starts off nice and gently and moves in. That's just me, because I've written it. So I think it's fantastic, and it's like moves just about smoothly into from JavaScript to this. Other than that, I would say if I were to do Furnish4 again, I would build it in React. I would build the front end in React. I would build the back end in Node, and I would build the database in MongoDB, because it just feels like the perfect MVP-able kind of language, and you just have one language running through it. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I love the way you brought Furnish4 and React together there.
We're right back in there.
No, that's great. So do you think it's possible then, in that case, so you said that if you were to do it again, you would do that. How would it be really difficult to change what you have into React?
It wouldn't, and I'm actually, some of that is for future as well. The nice thing about, I think, React is because it's a library, you can plug in and extend and maybe swap over parts of functionality. So you've built a whole system in one tech, you should be able to envision and plug and think about plugging in other aspects of it. So no, I don't think it wouldn't be difficult. It's just about thinking about things in a componentized way, so in a set piece of way. So for example, I think I'm going to talk about Furnish4 again. So for example, with Furnish4, there is a whole aspect of I've created my user account, and I've created this board of products, and I'm moving all these board of products about and making it really pretty and look good. You could potentially build just that component in React and plug it in seamlessly into your website. So you wouldn't know necessarily that it's built in React. It'll probably just be a bit faster.
Okay. Oh, okay. So the idea is that you won't really see any change at all. But
you wouldn't see any change, no. Yeah. You shouldn't see any change. It would just be a case of it's been added and it's replacing maybe something else that was doing it, some other library that was doing it, such as jQuery or yeah.
Cool. And just to plug Furnish for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I remember a while ago I said to you, and maybe this isn't a thing that you offer, you were just being nice to me, I don't know. But I remember a while ago I said, I really want a drinks cabinet. And you were like, really? What do you want it to look like? And you were going to go and find somebody for me to then have the thing that I actually wanted. Is that
and then Keely went out of business?
Yeah. It's very upset. I really wanted an Order Keely one, and I was like, that was the exact thing I wanted, didn't exist anymore. But is that a service that you offer? Like, if somebody said, this is something that I need and this is something that I want, are you able to help them source that?
See, this is again another future kind of tech that we would love to add, and it's on the plans, because it's about, for me, building community. So it's a personal shopper. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if any of you know about, there's a personal shopper tool for clothing, for male clothing. I think it's called Threads or Threadbare, where you basically use and it has an interface and a bot that helps. It's not really a bot though, it's a personal shopper tool that will encourage you and suggest things for you based on your particular wants and requirements. And that's something I'm really keen on in including in Furnish4, just the ability to help people find what they really want. There are so many ideas. I could go on and on. There are lots and lots of things that you could do to extend it. But it's also about finding out, what your users really want and making sure you serve them, not just do cool stuff that I want to do.
Did you do much user research then to find out what the market wanted?
We did. And one of the cool pieces of things, there's lots of stuff out there already that you can use and loads of communities that you can also dip into. So when it came to furniture, we kind of trawled Pinterest and how people were talking about it and what they wanted. We kind of joined lots of Facebook groups who were like struggling to find it, and they were saying things like, hey, we've just been to Pinterest, but this link is broken again, it's so annoying, I want something that's going to help me do that. So we knew there's a requirement and there's a want for it out there, and so we did that before we even built the site.
That's a good idea. So we have Maria who's asked, earlier you'd mentioned the journey of working for a company to contracting to building your own business. How do you suggest going about making the transition between those stages? Okay, so I think I would suggest that you don't necessarily want to do from the way I did from a full-time job to contracting, because I just quit. I did not have a contract before I quit, but I'd been in that company for 9 years. So I had grown from a junior tech to like a technical architect at that point. And so I had the confidence that there was going to be something out there for me. Well, that's not true. It was more a case of I needed the fear. Otherwise I just wouldn't have leapt. I wouldn't have taken that leap. And I wanted the experience more than I was scared of not finding a job. So I essentially just quit. But I would suggest, like I said, if you're going to make that transition, try and do it. You can do it a bit more smoothly from going from full-time to maybe contracting by joining groups. There's contractor groups out there as well for you. Talking to people who are contractors, getting to understand where they look for jobs, getting to maybe even they could potentially suggest recruiters for you as well. I get that a lot still. We've got this job for you. Do you know anybody who can fulfill it? So there are going to be people out there who are looking for people. And if you're the first name that comes to mind, because you put it out there that you're looking, then you can potentially make transitions a bit easier that way. When it comes to contracting, the nice thing about that is contracts end. So you can choose to renew them or you can choose to continue with them. And so when I was building Furnish For, I kind of would take a little bit of a break, build it, or sometimes build it alongside on my weekends, or take a day off, because contracting can be a little bit more flexible. There's also the opportunity of maybe, if you have the capacity, reducing your hours at work to kind of pursue some of these things. I mean, not everybody has that kind of luxury, but there are options to try and not maybe take that massive leap that I did. Yeah, I think that's definitely, it sounds like building your networks and telling people what you want to do is so important. I know that when I went contracting, I used to be permanent and then I went contracting, and I literally just I just called somebody that I used to work with who had gone contracting and said, you got any contracts? And he was like, yeah, sure, join my team. and then after that, I told people I wanted side projects, and then people called me and said, I remember you said you wanted a side project, and then I had side projects to work on. And then
be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. It meant that I got to work all hours of the day, all the time. It's great. But I think it's so important to tell people what you want. And then, as Efua said, you're the first person that comes to mind when they're looking to fill a role or fill a position or get something done. So important. No, that's absolutely fantastic. So what about, and I guess, you were saying that when you then went from contracting to building a business, that was more that you were doing that on the side, but you knew how you wanted it to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more like I knew I wanted to keep on upping my skill set and also contributing and obviously making money so that I could afford to take more time out and build that. So yeah, it worked that way.
I think, so on that, I remember when I was looking at, I've been thinking about business for years and like what the right path is and what I wanted to do. And I remember some advice that was given to me was, do everything. So try and start off by, I know this isn't necessarily the right advice. I'm not saying this is the right advice, but it's led me in the right direction of try and take on a lot of tasks, and you quickly figure out which tasks it is that you need to outsource, and make the right decisions then about outsourcing rather than outsourcing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could achieve that through planning as well. I think some people are planners, other people are, I'm going to do everything until I break. But if you're one of the people that is likely to do the whole breaking thing, then you'll identify pretty quickly what you can outsource. Yeah. But no, Efua, this has been so insightful, so inspirational. Do you have any final inspirational comments you want to leave for these fantastic women that we have here today?
Yes. Becoming a programmer has been one of the most door-opening things I've ever had, I think. I remember at uni, if I'd known how many opportunities I would have from it, and the choices it would grant me in life, I would tell that year 2 student who called up their parents crying that they couldn't do it to just suck it up. No, I wouldn't. I would say, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Because it really does open a lot of doors for you, really. And it's the way that I think the world is going, right? Everyone's going to have to learn how to code eventually, because it gives you the opportunity to really create. It's a very creative thing as well. There's a concept that programming isn't necessarily creative. In people's heads, they're thinking it's just somebody sitting there at a PC, but it isn't. You really are building something. You're conceptualizing something and building it from scratch and then putting it out there into the world. It's pretty exciting.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure that everybody is totally inspired. I'm always inspired whenever you speak and tell me everything that you do. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. It's been fun. Thank you all.
It's been fantastic.
Thank you. It's been amazing. I really learned a lot actually from you. So thank you on my side.
Awesome. Thank you.
Fantastic. There are a lot of thank yous in the chat as well, so I know that everyone's appreciating.
Cool. Oh, I haven't even. Let's have a look at the chat. Oh, hello. Fine. You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, good.
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's been fantastic having you all here again. For those of you on the bootcamp, you're going to be doing some React on Monday and Tuesday, so be ready, be excited. There is a lot of support around for you. That's not going to disappear. So, as Efua sort of mentioned, it's a bit of a change, but you've got the support you need.
You'll have it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we're all there for you. And I know that Efua is going to be like sneaking around and making.
I'll be creeping. I'll be creeping around there. But yeah, I'll be there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Have lovely evenings, everyone.
Yes, everyone have a lovely
evening. Have a fab weekend, everyone.
Yes, see you next week.
It's a Friday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.